Morning, we're at Meadowlands Fishery today on Lambsdown Lake. Lovely big lake, full of fish. I've got a silverfish league starting here this Saturday, so I've come for a practice and I want to try out a method that I've been using at Willow Park and Southend Farm, where I've been fishing other silverfish matches. So the method I've been employing is sort of gone away from the standard approach of feeding a negative line and a positive line and switching and topping up. I've just been fishing one line on the pole. And in the beginning I've been putting in quite a lot of ground bait, but with hardly any particles. And then my theory is to build up the peg as I go along. Because I'm just feeding one line, I can just trickle bait in through a small pot, maggots, little balls of ground bait, and just keep in touch with my peg with what's going on. So that's the approach I'm going to try. Hopefully it'll work. If it doesn't, I'll do something completely different on the match this Saturday, but we'll see. Hopefully it'll be a good day. Okay, so the two ground baits from Spotted Fin that I've chosen for today are the Naturals Lake Dark and Sweet Super Blend, which is one of my favourites, has been out since day one. So I like to combine a natural ground bait with a fish meal ground bait because I want to catch skimmers and roach. Now the roach don't mind fish meal at all, but I don't want to use 100% fish meal mix. And also my theory is the more fish meal I put into the natural ground bait, the richer that ground bait becomes. And depending on the temperature, I will vary the amount of fish meal I put into it, if that makes sense. So when the fishing's very hard and the water's very cold, I will err more on the side of the natural ground bait. So I might have 2/3 natural ground bait, lake in this case, and 1/3 Sweet Super Blend. I feel like I need the fish meal in it, but I don't want to put too much because I consider it a high food value ground bait. Today I'm going to go 50-50 because I think the fishing's going to be all right. The water's cold, but it's not going to be brilliant. Towards the end of this series of matches, which go on into the spring, I'll probably use 2/3 Sweet Super Blend and 1/3 lake, because then I'm looking for a richer mix. I'm going to catch more fish. That's what I hope anyway. So that's my sort of theory behind my mixes, how I sort of combine the two ground baits. So let's mix them up. The lake is a sweet ground bait. That's why I've chosen it to mix with the Sweet Super Blend, because the two are sweet, so they match each other perfectly. The lake's got biscuit in it, waffle, all things that Bream like. It's got a little bit of activity, so when the fish come over it, it's going to ping up off the bottom a little bit. And the two together really go well. I'm going to use this mix on the feeder and the pole, so I'm not going to have two mixes. It's a dark mix because I think the fish will be more confident over a dark mix now the weather's cold. They mix up really easily. You can see that straight away. It looks nice. Slightly over wetted, that'll dry out. I'll add a little bit more water just to bring it how I want it. And to be fair, I'll probably separate a little bit for the feeder, which I'll keep on the dry side. So before I re-wet it, I'll take a pint out, keep that as my feeder mix. But yeah, it's got a lovely smell. I've caught plenty of fish on it this winter. I've used the lake on its own plenty of times, caught loads of fish on it using it that way. But I think this is the one for today. So I'm going to feed my swim now. I'm going to feed the feeder first because I'm going to go on the feeder before I go on the pole. So I'm going to put 4 feederfuls in with a little bit of chopped worm, a few micro pellets and a few dead maggots and pinkies, just to mark my spot. Hopefully a few fish will move onto it quite quickly while I'm feeding my pole line. I'm only going to pot it on the pole, I'm not going to ball it, so feeder first, then the pole. The other thing I've done, because we're fishing in sort of 12-13 foot of water, I've clipped my feeder up at the distance I'm going to fish, and then I've actually wound back a turn and clipped it up again. So the reason for that is when the feeder hits the surface now, it's obviously one turn shorter than where I'm actually going to fish. So the reason for that is because of the depth, the feeder is going to arc slightly back towards me, and some particles are going to come out on the way down. So I just feel like feeding like this and then unclipping that extra turn and then fishing a turn further than I've fed, I think everything will be closer together. There won't be any feed cast where I'm fishing, if that makes sense, which I think is quite important for skimmers. So just to go through that again, I've clipped up where I want to fish. I haven't measured it or anything, I've just looked and cast. Then I've wound back a turn, clips it up again. That's what I'm casting to now, is that shorter clip. Let's hit the bottom. And after I put this next feeder full in, I'm going to unclip, so I'm on my initial clip, if that makes sense. It's a tactic I use quite a lot in deep water, and it's sort of, I feel like it's right. So that's my last feeder full, 4 feeders. I'm going to unclip that one. There's my other one. Empty that last feeder. So that's done, that's ready. When I recast out there, I feel like I'm just going to be on the far edge of my feed, and I'm happy with that. Right, pole. So the tactic is to feed positively in the way that I'm going to put a volume of ground bait in. I'm going to put 7 balls in, as big as I can make them, and inside those balls there's literally like 10 maggots and a few micro pellets, and that's going to give me a nice area on the bottom of ground bait, but not many particles, obviously. Now I think the more particles you put in at the start, the longer you have to wait for the fish to come over them, because it's a volume of bait. So I'm going to try, you know, it's only practice today, but I've been doing this elsewhere. I'm going to try and put a bed of ground bait down. I think the fish will come over it, and then when I fish it, I'm going to be feeding really regularly, either with a kinder pot or with a big pot, in and out quite often, and just work that bed of ground bait by trickling in maggots, casters, little balls of ground bait with worms in, and just try and stay in contact with my peg. So that's the theory. So I'm going to put the 7 balls in now, and then we'll get on the feeder. So if I squeeze them in a bit of a oval shape, they wedge in the pot. This pot's a bit tapered, it's quite good, it grips the ball. Looks like a chocolate muffin, but doesn't matter. So I'm probably going to end up fishing with a spray bar and sitting on the end of my pole, but I'm going to feed it with the pole under my elbow. So when I sit on the end of the pole and fish, I will be, again, just on the far edge of that ground bait. Giving the balls about 6 or 7 squeezes, not too hard enough to get to the bottom intact and then break up pretty quickly. I think the whole lot will be broken up in 5 minutes. That's it. So that's my peg fed, that's my basic ground bait in on the pole, a little bit of bait on the feeder. I'm ready to put a hook length on now and go out there, hopefully get a few bites, get fishing. So been fishing for about 2.25 hours now, and started on the feeder. Didn't get anything the first couple of casts, and then I had a little spell of about 20 minutes where I caught one good skimmer, a couple of roach, a little skimmer, a little hybrid, and had a few bites, and then sort of slowed down, went dead basically. So I came in on the pole again, nothing straight away, but then I started feeding a few maggots, and I fed a little ball of ground bait, and then I've had indications and caught odd fish. Caught a few good skimmers, some small skimmers, some decent roach, a nice hybrid, but it's been a bit iffy, to be honest. The fish sort of seem to be coming and going. It's hard to work out how to feed it. I've foul hooked 2 good skimmers, and I've lost one good one that was in the mouth, and it's hard to present the bait as well. The wind, the toe is like going with the wind, so it's quite tricky. It's not backing up underneath. I've had some really iffy bites, like that one, but I've started fishing pinkies on the hook now, and that seems to be better. I've fed dead pinkies in the ground bait. I'm catching more consistently now. Not big fish, but I'm catching fish. So I think I'm going to carry on fishing pinkies for a bit. Little skimmer, but basically the fishing's quite hard. I've probably caught, I've caught at least £9, which isn't bad. If it was a match, I'd probably be happy, I suppose. But it's been hard to work out what's best to do, so I'm going to carry on fishing for a while. I'm sort of alternating between putting maggots in and little balls of ground bait. And the other thing was, in the beginning, when I was topping up with little balls of ground bait, I put chopped worm in them, and I'm not sure that was the right thing to do. The water's really coloured, so I thought it'll be good, but I don't think it has been. I've cut the worms out the last 2 or 3 times I've fed ground bait, and switched more to focusing on fishing pinkies. I was only fishing maggots anyway, and it seems to the peg seems to have a bit more life to it. But anyway, I'm going to carry on. It's good practice for the match at the weekend, and might start feeding a bit more positively in a bit, see what happens, see if I can get some bigger fish back in the peg. Okay, so we've wrapped it up today. As you can see, the weather has taken a turn for the worst. Wasn't forecast like this, so that's a little bit disappointing. So the fishing has been good. It's been a bit frustrating. There's been 4 of us fishing here today, and we've all had a sort of bit of a tricky day really. I've foul hooked a few fish, I've lost a few, I've caught over double figures here, maybe £14. It's been good, been interesting. Pinkies was a good bait. But yeah, a bit harder than I expected, to be honest. I'm glad I've come for a practice, because the match is in 3 days' time, so now I've got a feel for it. I've got a few things to think about, and sort of looking forward to the match. I think it's going to be a hard match. £20–25 will probably win the match, I expect, and let's just hope the weather's a bit better. But there you go, nice net of fish, a few big skimmers, nice hybrid, few roach, a few things to think about, and look forward to Saturday. That's it.